Hi, welcome to our review session for number 4, for our exam number 4. So thank you all for turning in. Sorry we got a little late, had some technical issues, but we're okay now and we're good, and hopefully this will be up in time for it to still be useful to some of you. So we'll go through what I think is fair game on the exam, and I'm going through, I know you can't see this, the review sheet of what I thought was fair game on the exam. So we'll go through those. The first is secured transactions. Now, if you're in my night class, we didn't cover secured transactions. We didn't get to it because we lost a Wednesday class. I don't know how they did it, but they stole it from us. You probably don't care. You're probably like, woohoo, one less day of business long. Having to put up with Han and his crazy lectures. But I wanted to teach. But they stole the Wednesday, so we didn't get to secured transactions. So if you're in my night class, go get yourself a snack, a beer. If you're 21, I'm not encouraging anybody to do anything inappropriate. Order a pizza, something, but we'll go through this. So for the day class, we talked about secured transactions, right? The important thing with secured transactions is, first of all, the type of transaction. What is a secured transaction? So it's important to be able to identify it. And what's the requirements of it? All right, must be in writing, has to be signed, has to identify the property. Anytime you're dealing with secured transactions, there's going to be 3 questions you have. Was there a security agreement? Was it perfected? And what's the priority? So that would be this. So the first one is there a secured transaction? What is a secured transaction, and was there one? Then there's going to be a question of, was it perfected? And again, how you perfect it. A purchase money security agreement has some special things that it automatically perfects. Otherwise, you do perfection by filing, like filing with the Department of Financial Institutions, or perfection by possession, like a pawn store or a like a mechanic's lien. If I drop my plane off somewhere and they hold it pending payment, they have it by possession. You need to know the difference between what the effect of an unperfected lien is. Basically, if you have an unperfected lien, it is only valid against that person, and anybody that buys it for good value, a purchaser with good value without notice of the lien, they don't take it subject to the lien. We also talked about the scope of security agreements, what it includes, what it doesn't include, that it can include like future property, things like that. We also talked about priority of competing interests, what the difference between if it's secured versus an unsecured, who gets property, the secured. If it's a secured perfected versus a secured unperfected, the secured perfected gets it. If it's secured perfected versus secured perfected, then it's going to be whoever filed first. So it's important to keep in mind that. We also talked about default. If you default on a security agreement, what the rights are. Hey, this cuts off my arm. That's pretty cool. Oh, I lost my arm. Oh, sorry. Okay. Anyway, default. If you default on the loan, they can repossess the collateral or foreclose on the property, or take a replevin, which is a civil action to recover the property. They can then dispose of it in any commercially reasonable sale. The proceeds, where they get applied, first to the costs, then to the lien, then to any junior liens, then to ultimately to the purchaser. We also talked about what happens if the creditor chooses to retain the property, right? If the creditor chooses to retain the property, then they can keep the property as long as the debtor, the person whose property is, doesn't object, but then it's full satisfaction regardless of value. If they sell it at a commercially reasonable sale and it doesn't recover enough money, they can take a judgment for the remaining amount of the money. I just threw my shoe on top of the mic stand, the mic cord. Or they can take a judgment without repossession, meaning they can take a judgment for the underlying debt and not take the property. You don't have to take the property. You can say, hey, keep the property. It's not worth that amount. I will instead I'm just going to take a judgment against you. Secured debt. That's what that is about. Next one, and this goes to the night class. So night class, wake up, night students. Anyway, property. So we talked about the difference between real property and personal property. So when you get to the test, be able to identify real property, personal property. Personal property, anything tangible, you can carry it away. Real property, land, all the way down mineral rights, all the way to the sky, and anything physically attached to the land, or physically attached to the property. So a door, part of the real property. Why? Because it's physically attached. There's a door over here. You can't see it because of the green screen, but there's a door over here. That's what I'm pointing at. So anything physically attached. Door is part of the real property because it's permanently attached. Before they attached it, it could have been personal property, but it is now considered real property. Next thing we talk about in personal property is real, is tangible and intangible property. Again, tangible property is anything you can touch, move, carry, boats, cars, planes, doors. I guess doors real property we just said, but microphone, green screen, all items of tangible property. Intangible property would be something that you can't, like a legal right, like a patent, like a copyright, like a right under a lease or right under a contract, something like that. Intangible property, some type of legal right that you can't pick up and carry it away. Just looking at the time here, making sure I don't run out of time. Next thing we talked about is the difference between gifts. The difference between a gift, first of all, the elements of a gift was delivery, intent to make it a gift, and acceptance. If there aren't those three things, cannot be a valid gift. If there's no delivery, if there's no intent to make it a gift, or no acceptance of the gift, not a valid gift. We also talked about the two different types of gifts. Gift causa mortis, right? A gift in contemplation of death, and a gift inter vivos, during your lifetime. And we talked about what that means. And an inter vivos gift becomes valid upon meeting the three elements and cannot be revoked. So if I give you my car and I deliver the keys to the car, and you accept them with my intent to give it to you, it's yours. I cannot get it back. A gift causa mortis is a little different. It can be revoked any time before death, and it automatically revokes if the fear of death, if the imminency of death dissipates. So if I'm going in for surgery and I say, geez, I may not make it. If I don't make it, I want to give my friend Ricardo my watch. And I give it to him and I deliver it to him with the intent. Megs, stop! I'm making a video. Man. Don't have children. Don't buy dogs. Live in peace. Quiet! Hold on a second. Stop! Get! Hopefully that's not too much noise. It's hold on. Okay, I'm back. Had to take a plastic bottle away from the dog because he was making way too much noise. So we're talking about gift causa mortis. If the fear of death dissipates or is gone and I don't die, that gift automatically voids. Next thing we talked about was involuntary transfers, right? We talked about abandoned property that's just outright abandoned. Jeez, I thought I found another bottle. How many fucking bottles are laying around here? Jeez. Megs, come here. Come here. Aha! I got it. Now if you see a big black dog come flying over and tackle me, you know it's about this bottle. Next we talked about sit. Next we talked about abandoned property, where pain in the ass. If you truly abandon property, the finder of it takes good owner, is the absolute owner of the property. Lost property, again, is something that was lost, where the person didn't know where, didn't mislay it, it's just lost, like something falling out of your pocket when you went to show your ID at the bar or something. That becomes the property of the finder against everyone else except for the rightful owner. The last one is mislaid property. Hold on again, that freaking dog. Okay, I'm back. Damn, I should have got a monkey instead of a dog. We're doing time. Okay, so again, lost property. Something was lost, like something fell out of your pocket, or something laying in the parking lot where it wasn't intentionally put there, it was just lost. And then the finder takes good title against everyone except for the rightful owner. Last one is mislaid property. And this is property that you intentionally lay someplace and then just forget to retrieve it. And in that case, the finder retains no rights. I'm winded now because I chased the damn dog around and put her in her cage. No children, no dogs. Take advice from me. Let me teach you something. Anyway, mislaid property becomes property of the owner of the real estate. And the theory there is lost and found. Next thing we talked about ownership by creation or capture. So like if you create something, you own it, or if you capture something, you own it. And capture can be a couple different ways. One is like a natural resource, like oil. Like if I drill down, I can capture that oil, it becomes my property. But also like wild animals, like hunting. So I'm not a hunter, but if you shoot a deer, it's not your deer until you physically capture the carcass. As gross as that is. You hunters are a sick bunch. Something wrong with people that want to go out in the woods and shoot something. But that's just me. In some worlds, some realms, that's a serial killer. In other words, in other places, it's a hunter, apparently. Suit yourself. Anyway, last one is bailments, right? Know what the elements to establish them are, right? It's by agreement, where the property is being held for the benefit of from one person to the benefit of the other. And know that the rights parties are special, or the rights and parties to a bailment also know special bailments. Those two common carriers like FedEx, postal system, stuff like that. Also innkeepers. If any property is lost or damaged at a hotel or at an inn, that they are a special bailment, so they are strictly liable for those damages. Next thing we talked about were interest in real estate. We talked again about what real estate was, and I already went through that, so I won't go through it again. Then we talked about interest in real estate, how you can own it. Fee simple, right? That's absolute ownership. You have an absolute right to own it, to possess it, and to sell it. Next one is a conditional estate, where you have owned the property, you have a right to use the property as long as a stated condition is met. As long as I give the land, the farm north of Whitewater to the university, so long as they use it for agriculture education. As long as they're using it for that, they're fine. If for whatever reason they stop using it for that, it either reverts back to me or it reverts back to some third party that I would name. Conditional estate. Life estate is that I retain the right of use of the property for my life, but upon my death, it automatically goes to someone else. So here I would say, I transfer the property to my children. I retain a life estate for myself. As long as I'm alive, I have a right to use the property, but upon my death, it automatically transfers to my children. Future interests then are an interest in a piece of property to which the triggering event has not triggered yet. So my children in a life estate, they have a vested remainder interest, which is a type of future interest. Likewise, a conditional estate creates a future interest in so much as there's another contingent owner that could get it if some triggering event happens. Like they're no longer, like Whitewater is no longer using the farm for agricultural education. It triggers in, it goes to whoever that contingent owner is. We also talked about non-possessory estates, right? Rights and property where you don't necessarily own it. We talked about easements, we talked about licenses, we talked about profits, and we talked about leaseholds. Again, that's where the lease easements, your right to go over somebody else's property, you use somebody else's property for a stated purpose. A license is a temporarily and revocable right to use somebody's property for a short term. The profit is the right to harvest property, harvest either crops, or the example I used in the notes was an apple orchard, allowing people to come and pick your apples, but it could also be hunting. For those serial killers, I mean hunters out there among you, it could be hunting, the right to harvest animals from the land. And finally, the last one is leasehold, and that would be your right under a lease to possess the property. Could be a short-term lease, like a year, for your apartments or houses you rent. It could also be a long-term lease, like a 9,000-year lease for the Guinness Brewery. I still don't believe none of my day class drank beer, except for one guy. One guy admitted he drank beer. Liars. Every last one of you. Liars. I know. I see things, and I hear things, too. Don't think you're getting away with anything. But anyway, that's leasehold. Finally, we talked about co-ownership of property. Is your ability to own the property with somebody else, right? Tenants in common can either be equal or unequal interests in real estate. Joint tenants must be equal. Tenants in the entirety, this is traditionally what you think of as husband and wife jointly owning a piece of property, that upon their death, the surviving spouse gets the remainder of the property. We also talked about transferring of property, both voluntary, through like a deed, and also involuntarily, through like adverse possession or condemnation or eminent domain. Adverse possession, again, if somebody is holding outright a claim to a piece of property for 20 years and nobody disputes it, they then own it. Eminent domain is that the government can purchase the property from a landowner for the fair market value, as long as it's for a public purpose. Public purpose doesn't necessarily mean something by the government, just means something for the benefit of the public. Could be a hospital, could be an airport. That's my next angle, don't you worry. I always got a plan B. Eminent domain, involuntary transfers of property. How am I doing on time? I'm okay. The last thing we talked about were wills and trusts. So the first thing, again, is we talked about is intestacy. And what intestacy is a law that establishes what happens to your property should you die without a will. If you die without a will, whatever the intestacy statute says, that's what happens. We also talked about capacity of the will, that you have to have the requisite capacity, right? Or the requirements, I should say, you have to have the requisite capacity, age, over the age of 18, and mental capacity, not having lost it. It's got to be done in writing. It's got to be signed and witnessed. We also talked that some states allow holographic wills, which were wills that were not witnessed by people, but was handwritten. And that literally means handwritten, written by your hand. We talked about not all states do that, but some states allow that. We talked about revoking a will. It can be done in writing, as long as it's, again, with the capacity, writing, signed with attestation, or through destruction, where you just get mad, tear the thing up, eat it, whatever you want to do to do that. Then we talked about a trust, establishing a trust. We talked about the parties to a trust, right? The settlor, the person funding the trust or setting the trust up. We talked about the trustee, the person managing the money, and we talked about the beneficiary. We talked about some special trusts, like a Totten trust. That's where you see bank accounts, again, that would be held Jeff Hahn for the benefit of Molly Hahn. I open a bank account in that way. That is establishing a trust. It's called a Totten trust. Also charitable trusts, we talked about that, which is that trust that the primary purpose or beneficiary is a charitable purpose, like a scholarship fund or something like that. And finally, we talked about termination of the trust, that a trust must pay out at some point in time. That's the rule against perpetuities, and that's why trust must terminate at some point. So that's what I got. Sorry for the late posting of this, but you'll be in good shape. If you have questions, my day class has got a couple of days till their exam. Give me a holler. I'm around. I'll help you however I can. Again, I want to thank you all for taking the class. I really appreciate it. I've had a fun semester. I wish you guys all the best, and as I said before many times, I'm around. You need something, my door's always open to all of you this semester and onwards in life. So save my contact information. I will help you however I can in life. Take care of yourselves. Good luck, and I will see you all soon on the final. Thanks.